Okay, so an update on our conscious conception journey. Do want to start out by saying that this does involve me talking about our actual conception. So if you're not ready to hear that, if you're in your journey where you don't want to hear about people getting positive results, just put this video away and watch it at a time where you are ready. So yeah, the last update I did was a little bit before I had my period, and I listened to a podcast that said for traditional Indian medicine, that ways to honour your bleed and look after yourself with that is to not cook, not clean, just rest a lot, and try and avoid water because water will have cooling effects on the body, and you want to encourage the energy to be warm and downwards. And I really love my long hot showers, but it said don't wash your hair. If you're going to have a shower, have a quick one, like maybe every other day, not every day. So that was hard for me. So I knew my bleed was coming. I had a really long hot shower, washed my hair. I usually meal prep and freeze it anyway, but did a few meals like that so I wouldn't have to cook. And the first few days, my son and I just sat in bed watching movies and just chilled and just didn't do a lot, didn't leave the house. And I left that week feeling, and also like, yeah, my bleed's usually 7 days or more. This is the first time I've ever had a bleed that was only 6 days. And I usually either have such intense cramps that I can't do anything or none at all. And this was kind of like just some very mild light cramping. I put crystals on my womb. I've always been like, I'm not going to be a doula that's into crystals, and now I'm so into crystals. But I had some that said they're good for the womb, so I put them on and just did little things like that. Returned my blood to the earth, and left the week feeling like if this is my last bleed in a long time, then that was a really beautiful week. And if it's not, then I now have some rituals and connections that I will look forward to doing next month. Felt really good about it. And anyway, so it was the first month that we were open to physical conception. And I decided to note everything down. I went into it thinking like the first month it wasn't going to happen. It did with my son. And I usually track my cycle. I know from mucus and stuff. But I don't know if there's too much information. The last time we had sex during my fertility window was to conceive my son. So, and we only had sex the one time. Whereas this time we were quite active. So I didn't want to track. I didn't want to get so obsessive with everything. But even when I was like, no, I'm just going to have a like quick look, I couldn't tell because of other fluids. So I was trying not to get obsessive. I ended up doing 2 ovulation tests, which I think might have ended up being towards the end of ovulation, or on the day I ovulated. I don't know. But I was like, had a quick look, and they were the P ones. I used to always use the saliva one, but the P one, it wasn't as dark as I think a positive should be. But I had a dark line on one. I don't know if I'm describing that properly. It was there, but I didn't feel like it was dark enough to be, you're ovulating today. And then the next day there was nothing. So I was like, yes, so much for not obsessing. But yeah, I wrote everything down. I tried to pay a lot of attention to my body, around, and this thing too, because I had a longer cycle a few months ago, the app I had was saying that it was going to be another long cycle, but everything was telling me like that was going to be like a week off. And I was hoping I was going to ovulate on the full moon and around then. But yeah, just like trying to not get obsessed, and got obsessed. But yeah, I wrote down everything around when ovulation, looking back when ovulation actually would have occurred, and around that full moon. The girl's name that we have picked out was just everywhere. Literally every TV show I turned on, there was a character with the name. my son would just randomly pick a book to read that had the character name in, songs on the radio, just like all these things that the name was just everywhere. And I was like, that's weird, but you know. And I've started to kind of have this date in my head where I feel like that's maybe going to be baby's due date, and that would put us have not conceiving in that first month. So I was kind of fixed on, and I was like, don't want to get my hopes up. Like, it's probably not going to happen this month. So first I started seeing the name, and then the following week I had 2 really strong dreams, which dreams have been a connection to the spirit baby for me. The first dream was just a bunch of positive tests. And then the next one was like I woke up in the middle of the night and was in that kind of half dream state where you're just waking up and coming out of the dream. And I felt this strong pull of you're pregnant. But as soon as I woke up in the morning for the day, that feeling was gone. I was like, no, I don't know if these dreams are my wants, not these signs kind of thing. So I had the 2 dreams. Within the month, we passed the date, which was the date we found out we were pregnant with my son. So I had always had in my head I really wanted to test on that day. So I tested on that day, and it was always going to be too early, but tested and it was negative. But and then a couple of days later, the early pregnancy tests were on sale at my local supermarket. So I brought a pack, and as soon as I brought them, I was like, now that I have them, I know I'm just going to be testing and obsessive. So I think I ended up taking 3 tests that were early, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to test again until where I actually think I might get a positive result. And then that combined with my parents had said that they would have my son for the night, and I thought, well, if I get a positive that day, it'll be cute to like do a cute setup for my husband, and I'll leave it to that day to test. He's in the background, by the way, which is why you can hear strange noises. And anyway, and then so that was going to be on a Saturday. I woke up the Friday morning, and when I woke up, I was just like, I feel like I should test. So I grabbed a test. It was the ones that do the lines, and I was looking at it, and this little line started to appear, and I was just like, what? Like, I thought it was still too early, and I was just shocked. And I should also say, other things that happened in the month, I got a new oracle deck. I pulled one card, and they've got flowers on them and little butterflies and dragons and things, and each card, it says the meaning behind the flower and then the meaning behind the butterfly, and it combines to be a meaning. But the meaning for the flower on the card was to call in baby girls. So I've had that on my birth altar since then, as well as I pulled a card that said basically about fertility from another deck. So I've had them both on my altar. And since around the time I think I would have ovulated, I started to cramp. And I never have cramping in between my cycle, but I've had mild cramping non-stop since then. And probably around when I thought I would have ovulated, I had this cramping near my ovary that was almost like a pop. And at the time I was like, I think that's when I ovulated. But now looking back, I think that's when conception actually happened. So now I don't remember where I am at in the story. Oh yeah, so I got my positive test, and when I got pregnant with my son, there was a really faint line, and I was like, and it was the first faint line I'd ever had, and I hadn't done tests prior to that one with him. So I was like, that's not a positive. Whereas this one, I knew what the negatives looked like, and I was like, there is a line. I also had a digital one that just says yes or no from that was in the pack. But I got that one on clearance, so I was worried that because it was expired, but to me I thought the expiry probably mean maybe the battery would be flat and that one wouldn't work, but it was from a multi-pack, so it had one digital and other ones in it. Anyway, so I was like, I need to do the digital, I need to know if that's a clear yes or no. So grabbed that out, and by then I had no pee left. I was just mustering up all the pee I could get. And the waiting button on it was permanently there, so it wouldn't flash. And then suddenly it started flashing, so I was like, okay, like there was enough pee, I haven't wasted a test. And anyway, very quickly that came up with a yes. So very excited. While I was doing it, my son was trashing the house, so I had to then come out and clean, and telling my husband was this, I wanted to set up something nice because with my son he was just like, you did the test and you're pregnant, aren't you? And I was like, well, yeah. So I wanted to set up something cute, so I waited till that night, and luckily it just worked out. My son fell asleep at 5 o'clock and slept for 2 hours. My husband went for a little nap, so while he was napping I set up this little thing, which I'll post pictures of it later. But yeah, so set that up, and he's excited and I'm excited, and haven't really mentioned anything to my son yet. I then did, later that day, I did a digital test that has the number of weeks, and that said I'm not pregnant at all, but it is a different brand. It is still early, so I'm going to do one of them just to see the number of weeks later. So this positive all happened yesterday, and while I'm on the like happy and high of that, I wanted to do just the update on what's happened so far. I'm going to post this video not when I'm recording it. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen now, and how the dreams are going to come through, and how that baby spirit is going to continue to come to us. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, like there have been so many just little things within the last couple of weeks, and I didn't want to get so involved and invested in them and then be disappointed, so I ignored a lot of them, but I am so glad that I paid enough attention to write them down. And yeah, like it's been a great journey. I'm so glad we've explored conscious conception. It's made it such a beautiful experience just to get to this point, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. But I probably will post another update at some point to talk about any messages that come through from spirit babies or anything like that. I do feel like this baby is quieter than my son, which would probably be a good thing because he is a boy's boy and crazy and into everything. But with him I knew, like I just knew straight out he was a boy, whereas this baby I'm like, I feel like a girl, but I'm not 1,000% like, yes, it is. So I feel like that's maybe that she's just a bit quieter, hoping she is quieter. But yeah, and once I post this video, it means that I can actually start talking about this a bit more, because we do want to keep things to ourselves and a bit private for a while. Yeah, anyway, I'll stop the video there.